You are entering a safe space. Please take a moment to center yourself and allow every thought, worry, and care to fall away right now. Focus on taking deep breaths and allow yourself to feel the healing freedom that is waiting to be ignited within you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel Draughon, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, and I am your host, Isabel Draughon. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is always a pleasure to have you on this podcast. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you're doing well as you're listening to this podcast. I hope that your heart is going to be open for you to receive, and I hope that as you're navigating through the day and moving through the day, that you're giving yourself grace and self-compassion. Because let me tell you, from my experience, healing does not happen without self-compassion. So I just wanted to remind you that as you move through your day and you're listening to this podcast and doing whatever it is that you're doing for yourself, remember to have compassion for yourself. So welcome. I am excited to be here today. I have a special guest that a lot of people have been waiting for to come on the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast, which is the healing space. Our special guest today is the one and only, my better half, my heart, my business partner, my best friend, my everything, Mr. Duane Draughon. Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Finally. So anyway, I don't know, for those of you that follow me or follow him, we actually recorded a podcast. So this, I'm all about truth and vulnerability, but we recorded our first podcast about 2 months ago?
No, it wasn't that far. It was probably about 3 weeks ago.
It's longer than 3 weeks.
No, it's about 3 weeks ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So about 3 weeks ago, and what we did was the sound didn't turn out right. It was not connected. And so guess what? At first, it don't succeed. Brush yourself off and try again. So that's exactly what we're doing today.
It was a really good episode, too.
It was so deep.
It was really good. I think the lights in here changed color. Like it was really dope. And the fact that it didn't come through, that was disheartening.
It was disheartening. It truly was disheartening. But you know what? I'm a firm believer, because this is our life and this is what we do. We will get back at it, and we're going to create probably even a better one. And, things happen the way they're supposed to. Maybe just that episode was not supposed to be put out.
The wild
about that though.
The wild part is they don't really see what goes on to put this together. The fact that you and I are not technicians by any means.
We have wires.
Like I'm looking like. You guys can't see, but I'm looking, and there's 3 lights. There's a camera stand on wheels. There's computer technology hooking up the microphone. Like, it's crazy that we even have this. It's like it's our own studio in here. It's amazing when you look at it. Like you're gonna have to do like a little pan shot and show people what it really looks like all set up, because it's pretty wild. And
honestly, thanks to you for helping me put it together.
Oh yeah. I was really showing off. I was really bragging about myself.
Is that what it is? Don't forget to hook up with the camera. So anyway, Yeah. So, guys, again, thank you so much for joining. If this is your first time, please subscribe and share with your friends. The podcast drops every Wednesday. Again, this is your health and wellness podcast where we talk about everything human being. And what I mean by that, whatever it takes to be your best self. We share about people's experiences, tools, nuggets, tragedies, and all that good stuff to help you become your best self. We live in a society right now. We're validated and loved by how we're performing. And I believe that some of us need to start talking about the importance of just being a human being. So this is what the podcast is about. But today is extra special because I'm diving in with my love. And this is not going to be the only podcast together because we have so much to talk about. So why don't you introduce yourself?
How do I do that? I mean, I'm not just one person. You mean
I like that.
I'm so much like a lot of
Different
people.
facets.
Yeah, a lot of people define themselves as their career or whatever. And this is new. I'm just starting to realize that I'm so much other. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a husband. I'm a father. 3 amazing kids. I am a pilot. Like, you know, I can't go anywhere without telling anybody I'm not a pilot. I'm a cyclist. You know what I mean? Yeah. You mean I'll hop on a bike and ride it 30 miles. I'm what else? I'm a DJ. Yeah. You know what I mean? And obviously I'm a sound tech to hook this stuff up. I mean, I'm just a multifaceted guy. Mm-hmm. And we also together, we own several different businesses. So we're entrepreneurs and business people. Mm-hmm. I'm also a motivator. Okay. I know that I'm a sort of a rough motivator too. Like don't BS around me because I'm gonna drag you. Yeah.
Short, sort of.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm going to drag you. I think maybe because the former United States Marine in me, mm-hmm. there's no in and there's no ever, there's not enough, or you don't have enough in you. You better find it and go for it and get it, you know? So I guess that's who I am, but it probably would take a whole episode to really explain who I am.
I love that. I mean, you're a man who has different facets about yourself, different dynamics of who you are. Yeah. And I love the fact that you talked about those things about you first, then your career, like the entrepreneurship, about you being a pilot, a father, a husband. Most people always, the reason why I talk about this a lot on my podcast is most people always say what they do and not who they are. So you're learning a few things.
I'm married to Super Soul Sunday.
You're learning a few things. So we're going to dive right in. So in our journey together, what has been one of the most unexpected lessons you've learned about yourself, and how has it shaped our relationship?
The unexpected lessons
that you've learned about yourself, and how has it shaped our relationship?
This might come deep early. I don't feel like I was loved as a child. I feel like the only one person who did love me is dead. He's dead and gone. And so I know when we first got together, I would have a rough time accepting love. So I would sort of push away. Mm-hmm. And what it was is I didn't think I was worthy of somebody to love me because, I mean, at the time, the person who did love me, it was a male's love. So a male's love is different from a female's love. It was sort of that type of love that you didn't even know they loved you until they died because you heard all the stories that was said about you. And so when you realize like, oh, wow, okay, that person really loved me. But during the time, the good thing is you have the memories of what was shared. But that was one of the things that it was a big change in a relationship, and it took a while. Like it wasn't one of those things that first year, second year, third year. I mean, it was probably 15 years in out of 22 so far that I understood like, oh man, this woman really loves me, and I'm deserving of love. So I have to say that sort of molded me, and it changed me because now I could look at people different, like how I created and curated my friends. I had a lot of friends based on them giving me validation. Okay. And so when I realized what love was and how you were showing love to me, I was able to not gravitate to people who was just BSing me and not just selling my soul to them. And now I was able to build a better friendship. So it was a little deep. Yeah.
That's extremely powerful. You started off pretty deep. And you know me doing what I do. I'm going to dive a little bit
Don't have me
deeper.
crying on here.
That's okay. Your wife is a crybaby. People see me cry all the time. You say, don't have me crying. Men are allowed to cry. Black men cry. Men cry, period. It doesn't matter what color you are. But there's this thing of black men not crying. That is absolutely not true. That's actually a response to trauma. So for any black men listening to this or watching this, black men are allowed to cry. But I'm going to piggyback what you just said. You said you felt like you were not loved growing up. Where did that come from? What made you feel that way?
That's why it was such a big thing, because I didn't know it wasn't love when I was growing up. I didn't know. I just never expected love of any kind. It wasn't even when I got into a relationship, when we got into a relationship, or even relationships before you, those women didn't have a chance in hell. I mean, because I wouldn't even let them in. We just do our thing, send them on their way. And it would drive, I noticed now as I'm a grown up, it would drive people insane. It'd frustrate them. Yeah. But I wasn't ready.
In a sense, it's kind of like you were just being with people and then just letting them go and moving on, using them and letting them go. Not you even noticing or being aware of what you were doing, but that's just the path that you were on. What you knew about yourself and your worth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's sort of what was going on, and it was just a cycle, and it wasn't until I sort of had awakening and changed, just had a better understanding.
You have a better understanding, and so with that being said, a lot of us show up in relationships and in different spaces because of our childhood, and you just spoke about that. So where are you now as far as that is concerned? Do you still feel that void of not being loved as a child, or now you have a better understanding of who you are and your worth? Obviously, as you had mentioned, with me loving you and other people close to you loving you, you're able to understand love better for yourself?
It's still something to be dealt with, because because you have the understanding doesn't mean you agree. So
say that again. Just because you have the understanding
doesn't mean you agree.
What do you mean by that?
Because it's still evident, and I still think it's BS, but I understand. So I understand that the only person who actually really did other than you, and I mean the kids, but I think the kids are still conditional. I'm the dad. If you don't love me, you're not getting no money, or you're not, like, I'm not yet. And so
no, you're true. I love you unconditionally.
That's still that conditional. Like, that's the dad. Dad's gonna pay up, so I better show some love to dad. Yeah. I better, like, if I don't call him today, I'll call him tomorrow. You know what I mean? Somebody got to call dad back. But no, it's just because it's evident doesn't mean it's fair, and it's still something you have to understand. I don't think I got to necessarily agree with. I just got to get with the understanding. That's it. Okay. Okay. So it's just one of those things that you just, how you say it has to flow through you. Yeah. I guess it's a slow flow. Okay. Okay. And it's so fascinating because we are together, but we're kind of similar in some ways as far as maybe how we grew up, because you talk about how I was loving you, how I love you. And from before, I was loving you and you couldn't receive it. And on my side, I was seeking to give somebody love because I didn't want to feel abandoned. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. And that's powerful. And that's why I talk about childhood a lot, right? So the thing of feeling abandoned and the thing of feeling not wanted, rejected has not necessarily forced me, has given me this, I will even say power of love. Like, I love to love, and I love to a detriment. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I understand what you're saying. I did it too, to a detriment. So now I understand the difference. And it's amazing, as I was saying earlier, that we got together and I was seeking to give the love because I didn't want to be without the love, because I felt I had been without love, but I was just full of it, that I didn't know where to give it, but I never received it. Yeah. I think you said something to a detriment.
Yeah.
And like I'm just you study what you study, I study what I study, human nature, body language, things like that. And I'm very in depth on this. And watch out because I'm watching you. You know, it's that powerful. But
you can't do that.
I know I'm playing. It's just
this is what he was talking about. And I tell him all the time, but you can't do that, babe. You can't say that. You can't. You can't. Well, I can't. No.
I'm struggling just because I'm trying not to cuss here. You know, every other word is normally a cuss word. So when I think of it, like I can't cuss on her podcast.
Yeah.
I'll cuss on mine. Okay. Anyway, but you were saying the trauma is. I noticed, like you had the trauma you were giving. Mm-hmm. I know as a trauma, there was a detriment to my trauma because of that. I allowed too many chances on people. Mm-hmm. Like people, like it's almost destructive of what I allow people to get away with. And then in the end, they actually get the higher buck or the higher thing, or they get to say he did this or he did that. When what happened was I allowed, and then boom, it blows. And so and it's only I allow because of I think of where I was coming from. There was nobody listening to me. Mm-hmm. I had nobody to really relate anything to. It was always a battle on what I thought or who I was. I was always told I was wrong. I was always told I was crazy. I was always told as you do too much. You mean do all this. So if somebody has any attention to me, I gravitate and run to them. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm waking up to. Yeah. And I'm I've become a little tougher, you know what I mean? Because people used to say I was tough, but now I'm tougher in a different way. I'm tougher mentally. I don't need to be rude anymore. I used to be rude. Yeah. Now I'm sort of, stop watching around. Now I'm tougher in a way of mentally where I will check you, but in a positive way. Yeah. And,
you mentioned how allowing people to do things to you over and over again. This is a problem that a lot of us have. And when I even talk to my clients, especially women, but I think every human being experiences this depending on what area in your life that you're in. But I talk to women a lot about this. And what you were saying, giving people chances over and over and over again, and then you're holding it in. So what happens is a time comes when you cannot take it anymore and you explode. So then you will always look like the bad person. You always look like something is wrong with you. You always look like that man is nutty. But here's what people do. And this is why boundaries are very important. A lot of people think when you're setting boundaries for yourself, which most of us didn't even know what boundaries were. Let's really be honest. Even myself, before I started doing my work, I really didn't understand what boundaries were. But what happens is boundaries really help you love yourself. And they help you show people how to love you because you're telling them this is who I am. This is what matters to me. This is how I feel. But going back to what you said, a lot of us do that. We say, okay, enough is enough. And then we draw the line on the sand. And then the people violate that line. You know what we do? Because we're still seeking that love. We're still seeking that validation. We're still seeking to be seen. We're still seeking to be approved. When they cross that line, we back that line up and then do another line. Then they do it again. Then they cross the line. Because we want the love so bad, we draw another line, backing up. So then what happens is at the end, you're backed against the wall. And that's where you go, because you don't have any more space to keep backing up, to keep giving people the room to violate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what I learned from that is you end up losing.
Yes.
Yeah, like
always. Always.
And let's personal and business, I have to say, are two of the same things. I mean, I see a lot of this world. We've been in business for so long that
2 decades.
My whole world is sort of based on business, even how I think, how I act, how I interact. Mm-hmm. But yet business and personality are the same thing. So just what you said, some of the business dealings that we've seen that's gone bad, I'm not saying I'm righteous and I'm perfect, but a lot of these deals that have gone bad is because I allowed. And what happens is it got to the end. And because I allow so much to go down, it ran out. Regardless of if it ran out of time, if it ran out of money, if it ran out of face value, something ran out because I kept allowing. Instead of in the beginning saying, nah, stop, no, don't. This is how we're going to do it. I mean, just trying to keep face to try to keep somebody liking me as my friend.
And with you saying that, it proves the point that how we show up in our personal life is exactly how we show up in every area of our life. Although some of us don't believe it. We think, okay, at home in my personal life, I may be having these problems, but I got it, because I'm good at what I do. So when I go to on the other side, I'm not showing up that way. You may be good skills-wise, be good at performing, but you as the individual, the core of who you are, that's a perfect example. It's still showing up in your personal relationship, in your business, in your friendships, in every area of your life as that same person that's allowing people to walk over them, whether it's in your personal life or professional life. Like a lot of us don't understand that. Yeah. In what ways do you think we've helped each other grow into the people that we are today? And how do you see that continuing into the future?
Okay, this is what I guess this is what the podcast is for, so people can really hear what goes on. But I think this is what the world doesn't see about you and I.
Yeah.
I know I can't cuss, but a cuss word will just do this stuff.
Just speak.
We push the shit out of each other.
Yeah, we do.
That's the thing, like the level, and I'm not going to say like it's not uncomfortable.
No,
but the level of excellence that we demand from each other, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a way of, hey, I remember, okay. I remember when we first met and it wasn't even a date. And I tried to get you to my house for the first time. And I remember I had no furniture in this brand new apartment, and we were sitting in those green chairs, and you were sitting in front of me, and it was either those chairs or the bed, and you didn't want to go to the bedroom because you knew what was up. It was in the living room. But I remember asking you, and it was sort of an interview, like, hey, I'm trying to holler at you, but what do you want out of life?
Yeah.
And I remember asking that question. He was like, I want this office. I want to be like running this corporation, and I want to sit here. And I'm like, oh, she's pretty dope. And so I guess what it is I'm pushing that. You said that, I'm pushing that. I told you I want to be a pilot. I want an airplane. I want all this other stuff. And even health and all this stuff. You see that? You are pushing that. You are pushing me. Hey, did you get this checked out? Did you pass that? Did you read that? Did you do that? I'm like, all right, chill. You know what I mean? I'm asking you, hey, did you take that test? Did you study? Did you do that? So I think what it is we have a level of, we're pushing each other to these other levels. Like, these lights, this equipment that we even have in here, this stuff wasn't cheap, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're like, okay, this is what we need. It's what we're going to invest in to even take this to the next level. So I think we keep pushing. Just about your journal. I don't know why she doesn't advertise that every single day, but we've had that conversation a couple of times. So I'm going to say it again on the podcast.
No, I agree with you. We do push each other a lot. And a lot of people ask me, how is it working with your husband? What do you say when people ask you that? Like, for me, I think we've done it so long, I don't know how to not do it. We've done it for so long, I don't know how to not do it. Don't get me wrong, you'll have moments where you're like, oh my God, but actually, if I can be honest, we have less of those moments than we do moments of, working together well and doing the business together well. Wouldn't you think?
I agree. I don't know how deep we're going to get into that, but if we ever do get into that, it takes me to a depression. Like if we ever get into a point where we can't work together and talk together, I go far into a depression. So I don't even like that mindset, but you're right. We do well. We've done it so long. I don't know another way. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, what else you supposed to do with your spouse? You know what I mean? Like when I hear people say that they go here and their wife is here, and I'm thinking, what else? I don't know what else I'm supposed to do with my spouse. Like, I thought this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a little different for me. Yeah. We've been doing it for so long.
And I feel the same way too. We've been doing it for so long that I don't know how not to do it, and you talked about, I have another question for you. So can we talk about the power? This is the year of truth and vulnerability, at least for me, right? The truth, the soul, and all that good stuff. So as we're diving into, and more episodes come, will really be diving more into our life, let's talk about the power of vulnerability for a little bit. Can you share a moment in a marriage where being vulnerable was the hardest for you, but also the most rewarding?
I don't know if there's one thing.
Yeah.
Like after 22 years, to keep it real, as truthful as we say, I don't want, there's some of the stuff I don't want the world to know.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? I don't want to say some things to get a rating. Because we got some things that can get ratings that'll put us on HBO right now. But I don't feel like Netflix. I don't feel it needs to be in the street. So I don't know.
Just talk about what you're comfortable with. You don't need to divulge.
Okay, let's go with the first one.
Okay.
Was watching the birth of Angelica. That was I remember and don't, I know what you say, words matter. But up into that moment,
they really
up into that moment, I'm not degrading myself right now, what I'm going to say, because I know if I say this, you're going to like, okay. Up into that moment, I was just some man who didn't know anything about life. It was just running around chasing women and laying brick and trying to do some things. Like there was no idea of, I knew I wanted some money. I wanted a dope car. I could care less even about a crib. I just want a nice car and just travel and do stuff, do whatever. Watching Angelica come out, I remember looking at Angelica like, oh, this is real. Yeah.
We were young
like,
too.
Do I even really know her? I'm like, do I even really know her? And it ain't well, we got to do this. This is here. This popped out. And I'm looking at the baby. I'm looking at you. I'm like, oh, wow, this is real. So that was a big life-changing moment in our relationship. That was really big. Like, whoa. And then
I know you talked about how you were thinking. How did you feel? Did you feel joy? Did you have fear? Just the unknown, the uncertainty of not knowing what you just did, like what you just created?
See, understanding feelings now, I know I can, like say, if I did something in the past 5 years, I could describe it with a feeling.
Yeah.
That incident, I can't put a word of a feeling to it because there were so many emotions in one. I just remember what it looked like. Like I still, like you want to break it all down, I'll tell you what everybody was wearing, everything. It's still wearing.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, so you answered, and that's what was the most rewarding
for the podcast.
When you look back at the earlier days of our relationship, what do you think was the most pivotal moment that made you feel this is it?
This is it in terms of what?
Not necessarily this is it. What was a pivotal moment that maybe, I guess you just explained it, maybe Angelica's birth, that you're like, okay, this is what happened. This is it. This is what I'm going to go for. This is my relationship. This is, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But like you said, there's probably so many moments.
If you were, let me tell you how we got together. This is pretty dope. I can explain this.
Yeah.
How we got together. Now, another DJ can understand what I'm about to say. If you were a DJ. But one thing about being a DJ, you have to take two songs and you have to get them to the same beat. At least I do. A lot of DJs don't. That's why that's why the clubs don't be right now.
Oh my God.
So you got to take two songs if they're either the same key, same beat, and then you sync them together. So if another song is 96 BPM and another song is 97, you get them both to 96, and then you find the beat and you sync them together. And then you can't just slide the crossfader over to the next song because it'll stop the flow of the dance floor.
Okay.
What you got to do is you got to find a spot where the song you listen to gets into a beat that's nobody's speaking, and then you keep this song that's a beat nobody's speaking, and you match those beats. And you slowly flow. And right when this side is about to say something, boom, you drop it, or you can flow it in, you can spin this back and do whatever. The reason why I say that is that's how we got together. It was a crossfade. There wasn't like, hey, I'm with this girl, boom, we're going to get married. It was just a crossfade. Like even I look back, the song is How Did You Get There? Like that song is real to me.
Nobody's supposed to be here.
Yeah, that song is real to me because I'm like, how the hell did she get here? It was just day before yesterday. I woke up in the bed and I was sort of looking at you. I'm like, this is 20 something years. Like, where did this even come from? And how did it come from? And it was a crossfade relationship. Like it crossfade. Like I literally had to tell my girlfriends, hey, I got a girl that y'all can't call me no more. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, it was a crossfade over like that. And it was weird. Yeah.
Interesting. So can you share a time when we faced a significant challenge, and what do you believe was the key to overcoming it as a team?
Okay, so here's one, and this is just one of many, is when we first moved to Chicago, and we did well. I mean, we planned well. We had money in the bank. I mean, we saved for
a long time.
One thing we didn't do is, when I look back, is we didn't have jobs because we were entrepreneurs. So we were like, we'll just find we'll
find business.
We'll find business. I'll get over to Chicago and I'll hustle Chicago and I'll find business. It didn't really go that fast. And so the distraction was actually, wow, that's funny how this works, is we were talking about my father. The distraction was my father getting sick. It was a 6-month cycle of him being sick. So there was no concentration on finances. As a matter of fact, that was one of the first and only times in my life that even when I look back now, I should have cherished that, because I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about money.
It's funny that you say that, because not to cut you off, but man, I can't believe you just said that. I didn't care either, for the simple fact is, if you remember when your dad was sick, just an amazing man. I remember the kids and I would just move to Chicago. We would drive every Friday. Every Friday I'd get a rental car and we'd drive to Ohio. It never occurred to me the money is going, or never. I just felt like that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah. And like, it just hit me just now. Like, that was like one of the first and only times in my life that I actually free. I didn't care. Now there was detriment to it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know, let's talk about it. I remember getting back from the funeral after everything was over, and that is when it all broke loose. I mean, it was haywire. It was some haywire that we were dealing with. And then obviously I'm supposed to be the man of the house.
You just lost your father.
Just lost my father. So I didn't even know how to mourn. So I'm sort of lost. I don't even know who I am at this moment. And we get the knock on the door. It's the landlord. Hey, you didn't pay rent. They're shutting down cell phones. They're shutting down everything. And we're looking in the pantry and we're running out of food in the pantry. And not only are we getting hit where we're getting kicked out, we don't have anything and we're running out of food. I remember going blank. Like, there was just a moment where I was like, I don't have any more decisions. I don't know what to do because nothing I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
And I remember you stepping up and trying something on your end. I remember you were able to get the taxes together from, actually it was from the lady from Ohio who actually were able to get the taxes, and we got those tax returns back just in time to save us to get a new place. And it was like, that's when I did everything I possibly could do. And it got to the point where I couldn't do anything. And I was there and you jumped in and said, okay, let's do this and we'll get this going. And we was able to sort of keep moving. So that was a very powerful, pivotal moment. We have, if we did podcasts on pivotal moments like that we have a lot of them. I don't know why you and I take things too far. I don't know why we're always with a back up against the wall, but we have a lot of them where we're backs up against the wall and we come through, but we always win though.
Yes. I totally agree. We always win. That was a hard time. And I mean, just the fact that your father moved us to Chicago.
Yeah.
He moved us to Chicago and he went back to Ohio and it was downhill.
Yeah.
And you literally stayed in Ohio. You didn't move to Chicago with us. It was just me and the children. And I remember you would come on the we would come on the weekends. And I remember that week when you came, I remember like it was
Well, I would
yesterday.
fly back and forth at
Back and
times.
forth.
Yeah, there were times I would fly out on Friday and go back on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would go back and forth, and then sometimes you would come. So we would just rotate.
Yeah.
You mean, depending on what it
The
was.
bank account was just dwindling.
Oh,
All the
God.
money that we had saved for us to move was just dwindling. But I didn't realize it until you just said it now. I didn't give a care then either. I was not even really paying attention. It was just what needed to happen at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll add something else to this. What really hit me now, after we got through that, and then even a year after being here in Chicago, what really hit me was who I was in Ohio. I wasn't here in Chicago. And that was the hardest one.
What do you mean?
I was balling in Ohio. I mean, new house, new car, an office, business,
city, big
trucks.
thing.
Yeah, I was balling. I had staff, you know what I mean? I was doing well. He was late 20s, early 30s, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Making
really?
several $1 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad life. And then we moved to Chicago, and for the first couple of years, I couldn't afford to put gas in the car. You know what I mean? Like the bicycle was my transportation. I remember going to a job interview on a bicycle. You know what I mean? So
I remember Ubering.
yeah, and hell, I remember, but I don't want to remember that.
Yeah, Ubering.
Yeah. So it's like when you think about that, it's like, wow. And at that time, remember I always say, this is something I tell people when I talk to them, is what they're my motivation.
Yeah.
You cannot be what you were now if you're not it now.
Exactly.
So you can't come to me and say, oh man, I used to be a millionaire. No, you have to be it now. Oh, I used to do this. No, you got to be it now. And so what happened was, at that time of now, I wasn't what I was. Yeah. And so me trying to meet and mingle and talk to people, I couldn't move the way I used to move, you know, Ohio, until we had to rebuild. Now the rebuild is nice, but but we had to rebuild.
Yeah. And it's been a journey, and we'll talk about it in different episodes, really, just being a small business, being a Black business, all the stuff that we went through. It's not because we were just careless or we're not good at what we're doing. It's our backs were backed up against the wall, and we kept on trying to fight. And honestly, we were in our late 20s. We started running the business in our late 20s. So we've been doing this for a while. And it was.
Yeah, it's pretty wild experience.
It's pretty wild experience. Would you do it all over again?
Yes. Even though the trauma feeds me, I don't know how to answer that. Let me say I don't know for sure, because I still
trauma feeds you.
Not that it feeds me. The trauma gives me energy to keep moving forward, but the trauma, just the same amount of power that it gives me energy to move forward, the trauma also I have fear of the trauma. Like I sort of still need help getting over the trauma of the struggles.
We went through the struggles. I probably need
to get some help.
I can agree with you. I think we all need to get help in several areas. I think that was really profound. It really was a journey. We were young. It was just the two of us. There's nobody to lean on. And we both had this vision. I remember I was working, right? I was working actually as a contractor for Chase. And I will never forget. I was making, back then it was like 2005 when we started doing the business together. It was about 2005. I started contracting for Chase. When I think back, I was like making $20-something an hour.
It was like 28
something dollars back then, and doing pretty well. I will never forget this call. I will never forget the day that you called me. I was sitting at my desk, and I think I heard you were crying too. I think you were like, I can't do this by myself. Like, this is too much. I cannot do it, which made sense because everything you were doing was in the truck. You were one man. And I've always had the desire to own a business, like how you talked about before, had the desire to run a business. My parents had a business, so I already knew how that went, but I remember this phone call like it was yesterday. I was sitting at my desk and you expressed yourself. I could not just hear you. I could feel the pain. I could feel the exhaustion. You're like, I can't do this. I can't do this by myself. And then I'm like, babe, so I'm going to quit. Then we're going to do this together. You're like, yeah, we'll do this together. I remember when I quit, I'm like, girl, you're so crazy. You're crazy because I've been taking care of myself this whole time. Right? Independent, doing well, I guess the best of my ability. And now I'm like just putting myself out there. But I was afraid but I was not afraid to do it. I was afraid of the unknown, but I was not afraid to do it because I knew it was possible. One thing I do have to say, growing up in my family, there was always this thing of it's possible. Always it's possible. I remember even with my brother, with my younger brother, Joe, it's always is possible. Even when we had conversations, oh yeah, Mukwa, it's called me Mukwa, that's possible. I'll be like, yeah, he calls me, Joe, that's possible. And I tell you this all the time too, right? Even when you come up with something, I'm like, babe, that's possible. So I was afraid. I was afraid of the unknown, the uncertainty, the unknown of it. But I knew that it was possible. And the reason why I knew it was possible too is because of the type of person that you were.
I'm gonna add something. And I just realized this just now in this podcast. I had several businesses before that point.
Yes.
Okay. And they would have run-ups and rundowns. I had some disastrous failures, in that process.
You did pretty good too, though.
This is good. I was by myself.
Yeah.
So, So a couple $1,000s here made me look like it was big. And it's back in 98, 99, 2000. So I look rich. Back then.
Rich.
Yeah. Well, it still took me, talked about how you took my car.
Oh my God.
But what happened was that business was on fire. I had finally figured out the algorithm of business, and we lit that thing on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I also got over, and we'll probably have an episode on this. I also got over the racial aspect of the business too. Like, most of my business was catered to more white people, and white people would not allow me in their house, in their front door. Yeah. And so there was this inferior thing. Mm-hmm. I also got to the point where I was able to even crush that. I remember that first year that we did that business was over $307,000. That's when I picked up the phone and called you up like, hey girl, we're balling. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I need you to help us ball out because I know you know how to do this and manage this. You manage this part. Let me go out there and manage that. And you got to think the next year we doubled, the sales in that just the next year with you being in charge, with you being in office. So it was that business that was finally there. I didn't just call you out for the paperwork in the truck. We actually had an office. I had staff, everything. Yeah. It just got to be overwhelming because it started to take off.
Yeah. So it's always been, we've had a lot of those challenging moments. For all in all, where you see yourself now, did you see yourself here? Or has life just taken a turn for you from what you had envisioned for yourself?
That's why that other podcast that we recorded before this, it was so dope because I explained it so well.
You did.
And I don't know if I can do it like this. Okay, here's what happens. I've always wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to be wealthy. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to, live a great life. I've always wanted to own a business where there's staff working. Matter of fact, what's happening now with that new venture we're looking into, that's another dream that's always something that I saw too, like something to that size where you're dealing with investors and banks and attorneys and multi levels. That's something I've always dreamed of too. But here's the thing. And I don't know if people listening or seeing can even understand what I'm going to say. As much as I wanted it, I never had a vision of what it looked like. So I never saw myself in those situations.
Got it.
It wasn't really until this winter is it actually saw what it looked like is me in the helm of the CEO job or me going to the bank all these years. I never saw, I wanted it. Okay. I wanted it. And matter of fact, if you look at my goals, it has all these numbers. I wanted it, but I never saw me as the man. And maybe because I don't see too many of me in this situation. I don't see too many Black people in this situation with office staff and everybody working. Like even now, like when I walk into the office and everybody's doing work, like I really don't have anything to do anymore. Like I have 3 monitors at my desk and I send the pictures to my brothers. They're like, dude, you're just playing video games because you're not working anymore. And they're true because everybody is taking over my job that now my job is to create other jobs or to create become, because now I'm starting to do more leadership courses. I'm actually looking and finding courses where I can learn how to lead better. And so now I'm looking more into that because now I see myself as that. I did not before. I wanted it, but I never saw
Never
it.
saw yourself as an owner, as a CEO with having people. Interesting. Makes sense, because I remember when I was talking to you about the office and the vision that I had for the clients coming in, you were like, babe, you envisioned that?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I wanted it, but I never saw me running it.
That's so interesting. I'm the total opposite. I always see myself there, but I've had a lot of healing to do in order to get where I need to go. Yes. I've always envisioned some lady, a lady was coaching me and I didn't even realize it. And she told me that you're such a powerful manifester. I was like, really? And when I think about it, I'm a visionary and a powerful manifester. So I see myself, right? I believe myself that I could be this person. Number one, I honestly didn't know how to get there. I honestly didn't know that I had to unlearn a lot of things in order for me even to be where I'm at now. I thought that because I was so good at surviving, I was so good at flight and fight and freeze. And so I knew how to navigate the world and how to maneuver. But what was tripping me out is I was navigating and maneuver the world wearing a mask. So I couldn't even see. I could envision myself, but I couldn't see how to get to the place that I had envisioned within myself. You know, and that's why even sometimes like the kids will laugh like, Mommy, I see myself where I'm at. I do see myself. I just didn't realize I had a lot of garbage that I needed to unpack in order to get to that. I thought I could just get to that. I thought I could just get to this. Right. But no, it's taken a lot of unpacking, a lot of unlearning and a lot of learning. Right. And moving away from my survival mechanism and totally removing the mask, because I was the mask wearing queen, but I was good at navigating life while I was wearing
I always say that too. I'm like, so what mask did she have on last week?
What
did she have on 5 minutes ago? Because I hear that in an argument. I had my mask on. Like, okay, so was it real?
Oh my goodness. You said, is it real? Yeah, no, it's real. It's real. It's just that's where I was at. That's just my journey. And now I love, I tell people all the time that I used to live my life in Isabel, I'm ashamed of who I am, Drawn. And people think it's a joke when I say that. I literally lived my life that way. I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of my life experiences. I was ashamed of who I was and who I became and who I was becoming, the things that I was doing. For whatever reason, I never thought I was good enough. No, I know the reason, not for whatever reason. It was because of the not belonging. Not belonging is so powerful. Feeling like you do not belong, feeling like you're abandoned or you're rejected or you're not good enough. Just like how you were talking about in the beginning, it'll put you on a space where you're sprinting and you're on this hamster wheel, and it's a hamster wheel roller coaster, whatever you want to call it, over and over again, seeking something to fulfill you inside.
But they say that you better watch what you ask God for.
Because He's going to give it to you.
It's not that God gives it, but the experiences is what gets you there.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing this amazing work of Loud Whisper, the women's conferences, the coaching, daily for, high powered business owners and just even women in general, you had to have life fried.
Oh, yeah.
At you.
Yeah.
And so
I've lived through so many life experiences that I understand pain. And when I say this, I don't say it with a torch. Yeah, I understand pain. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but God has given me that discernment. You've seen me. God has given me that discernment. But I think in order for me to have that, I had to experience those different facets, these different experiences that created who I am today. And most of who I am today was made from pain.
And you're not allowed to allow the excuse.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of people cannot do. Yeah. And that's where people can say, Duane, you're mean, or you're this and that.
Yeah.
And it's just that, like, I'm gonna give you a scenario yesterday. You know what I mean? I'm riding a bike. I had probably had no business doing what I was doing because I just started back riding again. And I tried to go back to the old 60, 70, 30, 50, miles that I used to ride. So I said to myself, I'm going to ride these 30 miles out and I'll be done. Up until riding 30 miles, the most I've ridden was 24. And that was the only one I'd ridden. I had only ridden 16 before that. And the 24 hurt me. Why would I go to 33?
Yeah.
Okay. The difference is when I got to 14, I was tired. And 14 wasn't even halfway. Okay. A normal person would have said 14's enough, turn around and go back right now, because at least you would shut it down at 28. I'm like, nah, I said to myself, I'm going to do 30 plus. I'm going to finish it out. So on the return, I wasn't even halfway. When I hit the halfway return, it was nothing but wind and heat in my face the whole entire time. So it was just one sheer battle just to get that bike back home.
Yeah.
And I mean, every pedal, I would pedal, stop. It just killed me to get back home. And I can't tell how many times I wanted to pick up the phone and call you, like, hey, babe, just come get me. And it wasn't you. Like, if I couldn't have done it, I would have picked up the phone, come get me. But I said to myself, you could do this. Just fight it out, dig it out, because this is going to make you stronger. Yeah. And what happens is I notice a lot of people are not willing to do that in life. And to dig it out. Like, when they get to these hardships, they quit and throw in the towel. And I'm looking at their situation, like, man, you got so much more in you. And then they want to, and I'm not trying to brag, but they sort of want to be you.
Okay.
They envy you or idolize you, not in a horrible way, but they see your life and they want your life. Yeah. And it's like, dude, this life doesn't happen without the grit. Yeah. And this is the grit. Like, you got to keep going on this bike. You got to, if you have nothing else in you, you can't go. And it's the same thing with you in the marathon. I know at a 27 miles, if I would have got the mile 10, no, if I'd have got the mile 5, it would have been a fight for the rest. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I wouldn't have made it to mile 5. Yeah. So mile 5 to me, everything after that would have been a fight, because the most I've ever, other than the Marine Corps, most I've ever ran was 8 miles. So I ain't doing no more than that. Yeah. You know? So, and that's our thing. Like, it
does make, no, you're right. You're right. Because when I get to about 2021 is when I start fighting. When I first started doing my marathon, it started at around 16, mile 16. So you have to think I have a whole another 10 miles to fight through. So I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, just finding that grit inside of you to keep pushing. The thing with running is that you have to run back. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to run back. And it's interesting you say that. What I found out about the running, the working out, and all this stuff that I do, it is something that no one can take away from me. It's the one thing that I own about myself. Yep. It's one of the things that I own about myself, that I can challenge myself and I can make sure that it gives me that kind of satisfaction, and nobody gets to tell me how to do it. Nobody gets to tell me I failed. Nobody gets to tell me I'm not good enough. Nobody gets to tell me anything but me and my God. And that's why working out to me is so, like you told me, I didn't even realize it until after COVID. You're like, babe, that's your lifestyle, because it's really, and it stems from, I guess, just growing from that childhood and having something of my own that I can call of my own. And that's why, so I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. So this has been really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think we have a lot more.
We have so many episodes. We have so many episodes. We have so many things to talk about. We have our relationship of 20 something years. We have the business and who we've become individually, because we are individuals who have come together. And the more we keep growing, we're making sure that we're growing individually, but growing together. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I'll share it with you when we actually dive in. So we're going to have a lot more episodes. This was just kind of the opening for you guys to get to hear a little bit about my hubby, Duane, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So this is what I do. There are two questions that I would like to ask you. What are you looking forward to?
In life,
in
or
life in general? Just in life.
What happens is I'm looking forward to, I realize that I can do anything that I want.
Okay.
And so, and you're probably seeing that now that I'm proving it. Whatever it is that I want to do, whatever hobby it is.
Not to cut you off, I saw that years ago. So,
but I didn't realize.
For you. It's, but I always used to tell you for years. Then I tell you, I used to say, babe, I see you. I see the type of person that you are. I see you, babe. You're amazing. You're powerful. Like I did. If one thing, even when I didn't know what I was doing, I just got that weird aha moment. Mm-hmm. Even when I did not know what I was doing back then, one thing I have to say, I have always spoken words of encouragement. When you remember, I used to tell you, I always saw you all the time, babe. I think you're amazing. You're smart. You can do it. Don't let anybody tell you different. I just thought about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess that's it. I want to see, the multiple businesses, the airplanes, because the plane that I want now is not the plane that you want. So I got to get this one first and get the next one. I also want to get multiple bicycles. I want to take crazy vacations, and not even just vacations, but I see us like Italy hanging out. I see the houses in Africa. I see houses in maybe Jamaica where, my mom is from. I see so many different things. I feel like I'm just getting started. Like, even though I'm in my late 40s, I feel like I'm just getting started. Because I figured it out. Now that I figured it out, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that. What advice would you give to somebody who is listening to you at this moment? This person right now, they have a vision for their life. They've had so many stumbling blocks. They've had challenges coming through that you and we talked a little bit about the challenges that we've had. And like we said, we'll dive a little bit deeper. And they just feel lost because most of us, we have those days, including myself. You wake up and you don't feel good and you're feeling lost and you don't know where to go. So can you look into the camera and please give someone some advice?
I'm going to fire a direct shot. In the Marine Corps, we call this a shot across the bow. I'm taking this a shot across the bow. And whoever's listening, close your eyes and hear what I'm trying to say is nobody's coming to save you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nobody's coming to say, hey, this is your goals. This is your plan. And I'm going to do it for you. And so you have to start first. Now, as you start moving, the universe will line gurus, they will line helpers, they will line coaches up, they will even line finances to get you where you need to go. But until you face the grit and understand that nobody's going to do it for me, nobody's waiting for me, nobody is going to say, hey, boo-boo, this is it. Until you grit your teeth and understand that, I can talk to you till you're blue in the face. Your cousin, your auntie, your preacher, your therapist can talk to you to the face. It's not until you realize that nobody's coming to save you and you only got one shot on this earth. You're not going to get to come back and say, okay, this is something that I wanted to do. I didn't get to do it. So after I die, I'm going to come back and do it again. This is your shot. Go for it. And it's right now, too. It's right now.
Mm. Thank you for that, Mr. Draughon. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. And for those of you that needed that piece of advice, very profound, I hope it resonated with you. Again, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know some of you would like to follow my husband. So what I'll do is when the podcast drops, of course, I'll attach him to the video. So go ahead and follow him. He does amazing things. He's a pilot. And he does a lot of videos. So there's so much about him that you guys can follow. But I myself, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here as I continue to unfold and grow and share this space with you. This journey is just not for me. It is for all of us, for us to really tap into our being, for us to be really centered and understand who we were created to be. And just as Mr. Draughon had said, right, no one is here to save you. It's for you to really help yourself. It's for you to save yourself. It is not easy at all. You take that one step at a time. But as always, make sure you're gentle and kind with yourself, because us human beings, we are our worst critics. We are worse than the people that we want to love us who don't love us. So make sure you're gentle with yourself. Please make sure to subscribe. If you've not subscribed, please share with your friends. I'm looking forward for you to join us again next Wednesday. And please stay tuned for more episodes with Mr. Draughon and episodes with me, Isabel Draughon, your host for Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice, and all my other amazing guests that will be on here. And you have a great rest of the week and take good care of yourself. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a conversation. I would also be honored if you would consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. As always, you can connect with me through the links in the description. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you could join us today and look forward to supporting you on your greatest journey. Have a great day.